Alright, so here I am with another video on OOTP, out of the park baseball. So for this video, I wanted to do a batter prospect video on how to develop a batter, because I did one for pitching, and a lot of people asked for something similar with hitting with a batter, and I kind of was hesitant to put one up because there's so many factors that really revolve around developing prospects. Like, nothing's surefire, and I don't want people to be like, oh, I followed what you said and it didn't work. Well, prospects are like lottery tickets, really, and that's like the beauty of baseball. Like, guys will come out of nowhere and just click, and then sometimes the high profile guys don't pan out. More often than not, they don't pan out. And in OTP 17, we're going to see more of that, with a lot of talent heavy drafts and more players not panning out. Now, some of this is random, because talent change randomness is a thing, and there's nothing we can do about that. But there are definitely things that we can do to make sure we don't kill our prospects, and that includes rushing them through the minors. So I guess what we can do is we can take a look at a prospect that is in my online league. This is not my team, not my prospect. This is just a random prospect that I found that I liked the progression. So the owner, you can see Steel City. That is Doug in my online league. For those of you that are watching and are a part of my online league, shout out to Doug. I think he's doing a good job progressing this center fielder, Rusty Powers, through his minors. So anyways, let's take a look at what we're going to do to see how he's progressing his players through the minors. Now, one thing I want to make sure that we get very clear in the beginning is that you need a good sample size. Okay, now you'll see here in 2027 at single A, he's got 26 games, which I don't think is quite enough of a sample size. And you'll see that reflection when he gets promoted to double A later on in that season. He struggled. Okay, so I think he may have jumped the gun a bit with that single A promotion. He may have wanted to let him finish out the year in single A before promoting him to double A the next year. But it looks like it turned out okay, because the following season he did pretty well in double A. So no harm done there. It's just a personal preference. Let's talk about numbers. So for the pitching video, I believe I said about 100 innings is a good sample size. At least that's what I personally think. I'm not sure. I can't remember what I said. It was about a year ago when I made that video. So my personal just reference points, about 100 innings for a pitcher, about 250 plate appearances for a batter. So 250 plate appearances is not even a full season. That's probably about 50, 60 games, maybe. It's somewhere in that ballpark. So it doesn't have to be too much, but it's a good sample size. Obviously, the bigger the sample size, the better, because you're going to have more accurate stats. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this prospect, and we're going to look at his strengths. So this guy right here, his strengths lies in avoid Ks. So we want to make sure that his avoid Ks develops properly, because that's his best attribute. His I rating is actually a 2, so we don't know what we're going to get out of that. Now, for those who haven't seen my videos before, we do 1 to 5 ratings, potentials only, so there's no actual stats. So this is actually best for giving a guide on how to develop prospects, because we're not looking at actual ratings, so we can't be deceived based on poor scouting or something like that. This league does not have scouting turned on, so everything that you see is what you get. And I think that makes it best for this video, because if you're in a league that has scouting on, you may not always want to trust your scouts if they're not that great, and if they've let you down before. So I personally never trust the scouts or the little green arrows that are in the game that tell you when to promote someone and when to demote someone. I look at the stats. I don't do this for like every single player in my minors, but I do it for the main prospects that I definitely don't want to lose or ruin. So without further ado, let's take a look at the stats. Okay, we're going to go to batting stats, career batting stats, and we're going to look at the expanded batting stats. So for one, we'll just actually go to basic batting stats for now. You can look at the averages. Averages and on-base percentage give you a good idea. Average is directly related to contact. On-base percentage is directly related to eye. Okay, and then strikeouts is directly related to avoid Ks. Or directly related to avoid Ks. So you can get a quick overview right here, but we want to get a more in-depth overview because the contact rating is actually a combination of batting average of balls in play, power, and avoid Ks. Those are the three factors that make your contact rating. If you were to go into the editor right here and you were to look, it is contact is broken down into three subjects. Okay, it is batting average of balls in play, which is a hidden rating that we don't see, power, which is home run power essentially, and avoid Ks. So essentially, this guy should have an above average batting average. And by above average batting average, I would say probably in like the 280 to 300 range, because when he has full potential avoid Ks and he reaches maximum potential for these power ratings and contact ratings, he should hit around 280 to 300. So that's how you find the good hitters as opposed to the guys that look like they have good potential and then they hit like 260. It's because of avoid Ks and power. Okay, now power is a very subtle factor, but it is a factor. It's very subtle, though it is a factor. I think avoid Ks has a bigger influence on the contact rating, but power is very subtle. So, anyways, going back to batting stats, we're going to go to expanded batting stats. We're going to be concerned more so about the strikeout percentage and the walk percentage and then batting average for balls in play. So, for batting average for balls in play, it's very easy to remember the reference points. 300 is normal. That includes pitchers and batters. So, for a pitcher with a batting average for balls in play, it is 300, but for pitchers, it's more of a showing on how good their defense is and kind of a little bit of luck. And for a batter, it's more so luck and then opposing defenses, how good the opposing defense is, and then skill. So a guy that consistently is batting 330 for batting average of balls in play is probably around a 300 hitter. And if he's consistently doing it, then it's obviously not luck, and it's not anything attributed to the defense. He's just consistently a pretty good batter. So we want to see consistency there. Okay? Looking at strikeout percentage and walk percentage, you're probably thinking, what the heck are the averages? I don't know this stuff off the top of my head. Well, I have an image for you guys off of Fangraphs, that website, and it is right here. Okay, so this will tell us, this is for modern stats, okay, like literally 2015. Okay, so if you're in a modern league, these stats apply. If you're doing a historical replay, then you're going to want to go to Fangraphs and look at the strikeout percentage and walk percentage for that year. They do have that available on the website, so hopefully you will utilize that image. Anyways, so we can see that in his very first season in the minors, this season he actually did struggle. I believe 266 average, 316 on base percentage. Not exactly terrific. Not bad, just not exactly terrific. Okay, so we're going to take a look. Strikeout percentage, 23.4. If you look at this image, it says that 23.4 strikeout percentage is below average or poor. Not very good. Not what you want to see. Okay, go over here to the walk percentage, 4.7. Yep, that's awful. Okay, so not looking very good for him. And you see his batting average for balls in play, 333. Okay, so he's putting the ball in play, but he's not getting on base. He's not doing well with the hits. So we can conclude that because his batting average is 266. Okay, so that means he struck out too much. He's got a high batting average for balls in play stat, supposedly. We don't know what the actual stat is. It just looks high because it's above average. Okay, so the issue now lies in the strikeouts. Obviously, we can tell that because he is awful when it comes to strikeouts. And then when we look at his I rating, he has 4.7%, which is still awful. So contact should be good. His contact rating is there. He just strikes out too much. So we know that his contact rating for that level, single A, is above his level. So let's skip over to the next year when in 2027, he's 22 now. He played 26 games, but he was doing really well, and that's why he got promoted. I'm assuming. I was not in the GM's head, so I don't know why he actually did it. I'm just going to assume that it's because he was playing well. So let's look at the strikeout percentage. 17%. That's a huge increase, okay? Now you're talking about above average. And his batting average for balls in play is incredibly high, so we should see that his average is huge now. And it is 333 batting average. That's really good. Okay, so look at his walk percentage, 7.7, and that is about average. It's about average. So we can see an improvement in both I and avoid case. We don't know where it's actually at, but we do know that it's improved from last year. So you can give a guesstimate. We don't actually know. The batting average for balls in play, though, seems to have improved, but that is not a good indication because he only has 117 plate appearances, small sample size, and I think that if I were to do this, I would have given them a larger sample size, and I think that's kind of why he struggled a little bit when you bumped him up to AA, but I'm not here to critique, I'm just here to explain how I think the best way to develop a batter is. Now, moving on to 2027 AA, same exact season as a single A. He got 26 games in single A, looked like he was well improved, and looked like he was just crushing the competition, so he got promoted up to AA, and he did not do nearly as well. So the batting average for balls in play, still above average. Still above average. So the batting average for balls in play rating is good. And again, I cannot emphasize this anymore. Contact rating is broken down into 3 groups: power, avoid Ks, and batting average for balls in play. Those 3 combined give you your contact rating. It's not one single rating in the editor. It is 3. It's a combination of 3. So you can see it's still above average for his level. Okay, and that's not the issue here. Strikeout percentage is the issue. Walk percentage is the issue. His strikeout percentage climbed all the way back up to 27%, so it's clear that his avoid Ks is not at the actual rating that it should be at for this level. So 27% is completely awful, referencing this picture in the top left. Not good. Walk percentage is about the same, still below average, okay? So it's not entirely what you want to see in your prospect, and if you go here and you look at his batting average, 251, plummeted, okay? Not good. And we know it's not because of the batting average balls in play stat or rating, it's because of the strikeouts. Okay, so keep him in AA, good choice. Alright, kept him in AA for the next season, played 44 games there. Now 200 plate appearances. See, that's closer to my mark that I prefer, with 250 plate appearances. Okay, I think that's a good sample size. 205 is close enough. I mean, not in my preference, but because this is just completely, just a random prospect, I think that 205 is good enough for this video. So now we're going to look at strikeout percentage. 14%. 14% is great. So now you can tell his avoid Ks rating has improved, and it's better than what the league norm is. So he's probably at like a 3 actual rating at this point. I mean, we're just guesstimating. We don't really know, but we know that it's progressing a lot. So it may not be amazing, and it may not be maxed out at a 5, but it's definitely better than what it was last year. You know that he's improving, and that's really all you can ask for in a prospect from a year-to-year standpoint. So going over here to the batting average balls in play, it's improved. Okay, smaller sample size, which is probably why it's slightly better, but I would say that his contact rating is getting better because his avoid Ks got better, and the batting average balls in play stayed the same. Okay, so look at the walk percentage now. Now we're looking at 9.3%. That's almost above average. Now a 2 rating on a 1 to 5 scale is not above average. That's about average to below average, or below average to average, however you want to word it. But it's not anything It's not anything amazing. And that's okay because this guy's only got a 2i. So now, looking back, this guy's probably maxed out in I rating. If not maxed out, probably close to it. Because we're looking at a below average I here. And a bit of a smaller sample size. Well, it's probably a good enough sample size, but you're looking at probably a close to maxed out potential in I. And the strikeouts look much improved. And the batting average stayed the same, so we're going to see an increase in contact. There you go, average rating 291. And his on-base percentage flew up there too because he's got more walks. So, this is pretty good, okay? And he wants to keep them challenged. That's another thing that's very important when developing a prospect. You want to make sure they're staying challenged because it may seem a little far-fetched, but that is actually a factor in developing a prospect in out-of-the-park baseball. It's making sure they stay challenged. They're not going to get any better if they just keep crushing all the competition. Okay, so let's check out where he's at now in AAA. Pretty good batting average, pretty good on-base percentage. Looks like he's doing fine. Let's look at the expanded stats. Let's see strikeout percentage, 9.8%. It's continuously getting better. Strikeout percentage at 9.8% is amazing. That's excellent. That's top of the line. So he probably is pretty far along in a void case. I'd say it's probably somewhere in like a 4 range. I don't know, because we can't actually tell unless he's in Major League talent to see where it is. I mean, we're comparing stats on a minor league level, so I don't exactly know. And you never exactly know if you're looking at stats only. You just know that that is excellent. 9.8% is excellent. So then you look at the walk rating, okay, and it's at 3%. So now when I was feeling pretty confident about the 9.3%, thinking it might be maxed out, now I look at 3% and I'm like, maybe it's not as maxed out as I thought it was because it should be around the 7% area still. So now I don't think his eye's maxed out anymore. I think it was above the average, or I think it was about average for AA, but it hasn't quite gotten to the average for AAA yet. So eye is one of the last things to develop, I believe, in a young hitter. So you're looking at batting average, balls in play, 349. Looking at a striking percentage, it's going down. When you mix these two together, strikeout percentage and batting average, balls in play, you're going to get a really good average. Okay? So we can look at things like home run power and stuff like that. But for this particular scenario, I would say, let me go back here. Extra base hits is definitely something to look at for gap, because obviously extra base hits, doubles, triples, home runs. But there's not exactly something that we can look at as a percentage, as like percentage of hits that go for extra bases. Not any stat that I know of. So when you're looking for gap rating, you really just have to go off of extra base hits and just use it as a perspective. Really, like, how many doubles is the guy hitting? How many triples is he hitting? Do you think that's enough? So I'd say, like, in a 162 game season, you know, like 30 to 40 extra base hits would be, well, maybe not extra base hits, like 30 doubles, maybe like a couple triples, you know, like a handful, like 2 to 3 triples or something like that, anywhere between 30 and 40 doubles. Then you got to factor in the home runs. It's hard to determine. I actually think I have an ISO rating right here. Let me see if I have a picture for that. 1 second. So I have the ISO picture right here, and this will help you determine power for a hitter. So I know we're looking at a lot of sabermetric stats here, so it might be a lot to take in all at once, but it really helps when you're looking at developing a batter and how to properly analyze where they're at and in their career with their ratings. So if you're not using actual ratings like I am not, then this is the way to go. And even if you don't trust your scouts when you're using actual ratings, you just never can be too safe. Okay, even if you're in an actual ratings league, it's always best to just reference the stats because players don't always play up to their ratings. I've had guys that were just bad. They looked so good and they were just bad. Some guys looked terrible and actually performed. Some guys looked amazing and didn't perform. So it's best to just trust the stats. They won't lie to you. So here we're going to look at ISO. ISO is basically the determination of how many extra bases the player averages per at bat. And you can pretty much see how much of a power hitter the guy is. So 140 is average for the league. Okay, 140 is average when you factor in both extra bases hits, which includes home runs. So looking here, you can see that let's just use this 2027 AA season. Okay, he hit 149, which is about average, maybe slightly above average. He had 28 extra base hits. Go here, look at the standings. 12 of them were home runs. Another 12 were doubles. 4 were triples. Okay, so you can tell from here that his power and his gap, because we do have to look at both. So unfortunately, we can't just look at one stat and be like, okay, his home run power is where it should be. Okay, his gap is where it should be. Looking here, you can see that his power, which is actually a 3 rating, which in a 1 to 5 scale is probably about average to above average. It's somewhere on that scale because it's a large spectrum. It's not like a set number. It's not like literally a 1. It's on a 1 to 250 scale. So when you condense 1 to 250 to a 1 to 5 scale, it doesn't exactly go by increments of 50, 50, 50, 50 either. So it's a little complex, but anyways, we're just going to worry about that at a different time. We're looking at, it's probably on a spectrum of average to above average is a 3 rating. And I'd say like above average to like premier is a 4, and then like 5 is like elite. Like elite status. Like there's very few that have 5s in anything. So anyways, this guy should be an elite avoid Ks guy. He should never be striking out. So, looking at gap, 12 doubles, 4 triples. You kind of just have to reference that on your own. There's no set percentage or sabermetric stat that I can tell you where, oh, he's a good extra base hitter or, oh, he's a good power hitter with home runs, because the only thing we have to go off of is ISO, which combines the two of both gap and power. And unfortunately, when you're assessing a player, those are separate stats. There's home run power, and then there's gap. So I would say anywhere in the ballpark of 30 to 40 doubles, or a combination of doubles and triples is probably where a guy with 3 gap would land in this scenario, because it's average to above average. So if you were to play a full 162 game season and he had about 35 doubles and 5 triples, I'd say that's about what you should expect from a guy with 3 gap. Maybe less, maybe 30 and like 5, like 30 doubles, 5 triples, maybe. Either way, you want to be somewhere in that ballpark. So you can see that this guy's not exactly there with the gap, but it's not terrible. And then you factor in the home run power, and he's probably about average, you would think. And then you go here, look at his ISO, boom, you can see it's a little bit above average. Okay, and that's factoring both extra base hits and home runs, because we're looking at total extra base hits here. Extra base hits. I said extra base hits and home runs. They're counted the same. I meant doubles and triples and home runs. It's just hard to say that. Anyways, so what we're looking at here now in AAA, in his most recent season, the guy is consistently in the average range with his ISO. So that means that it's a small sample size because he's only got 132 plate appearances. So the walk percentage I wouldn't be worried about now. I'd probably wait till about 250 plate appearances. And just by the judgment of the trend that we're going here, he's probably going to finish the season out in AAA. So we're in July. He's got like 2.5 more months. So he's likely going to see about 90 to 100 games, and he'll probably get about 400 plate appearances or whatever, just guesstimating at this point. If his walk percentage doesn't improve by that point, then I'd be concerned, and I'd probably leave him in AAA again until he gets better. But the strikeout percentage is there. Like that avoid K's rating is golden. It's looking really good right now. So that's something that it's supposed to be good, and it is good, which is a good sign. So you want him to have, I'd say, about average to above average with his gap and home run power, because he's a 3, and a 3 on a 1 to 5 scale is about average to above average. Then you go over here and you look at his ISO, boom, and it's about average to above average looking at this picture. So you can use these references to know how a pitcher or how a batter is performing. And I should give you an indication of someone that is not doing well and then was brought up too soon, but I haven't got one that I'm prepared to show you like right now, so it'd probably take some time for me to go through and actually look. And I don't want to make this video any longer than it already is, so I can do a part 2 and I can show you the bad, and we can kind of assess it from there. But I think everybody has a good experience of batters or pitchers that just don't pan out. Like, you guys probably have had a fair share of prospects that died on you. And I'm not saying that this is a surefire way to just go ahead and make sure no prospect ever dies. What you want to do, I would say, rule of thumb, since I'm trying to wrap this all up, some points that I just want to really emphasize, wrapping it all up. Look at the percentages when you're going off of avoid Ks, contact. Okay, look at ISO when it comes to power. Like if you're judging like a power prospect, because every prospect's different. You got your power hitters for your like first basemen, third basemen, corner guys, whatever. You got your contact hitters, like center field, shortstop, whatever. Okay, every guy's different. So point of emphasis here: give him about 250 plate appearances before making a solid judgment. That would be my personal suggestion to you. My best advice: about 250 plate appearances. Don't move them up if they're not ready. If they're really doing well after 250 plate appearances, keep them challenged. Make sure you bump them up a league if they're doing exceptional. If they're doing about average, it's your call. It's a gut decision, but your call. Okay? If you're iffy on whether or not to promote a guy because he looks like he's doing well, but you're not really sure, look at these percentages. Okay? If the strikeout percentage shows that he's doing really well, then look at walk percentage. If he's supposed to be better, say he has in this scenario a 4.7 walk percentage and he's got a 23.4 strikeout percentage. Well, those are awful in both categories, so keep him there. Okay, if it were 17% strikeout percentage and then 4% walk percentage, well, the eye is the last thing to develop for a hitter, so maybe you should give him just a little bit more time and see if his eye comes around. And if not, then challenge him a little bit because the strikeout percentage is there. So it's kind of hard. It's a gut decision, but it's part of the fun of being a general manager. You have to make decisions like those, and it might come back to bite you, or maybe your prospect will develop a little bit better. So it's entirely your call. But yes, so I hope you guys learned some things about contact, power, avoid Ks. Okay, don't forget contact is split up into 3 ratings: the batting average balls in play, power, and avoid Ks. Those all factor into contact. So if you have a guy with really good avoid Ks, he's probably, and you match it with a good contact, he's going to be a good average hitter. Okay. Now this guy in particular has low I, so he's not going to have a really high on base percentage. It'll be somewhat high because his average is going to be high, but he's not going to be like a 370 or 380 on base percentage. He's not going to have that many. His on base percentage is not going to be that much higher than his average because he's not going to be walking that much. So that's the trade-off you get with a guy with low I but high avoid Ks and high contact. He's going to have a good batting average, but he's not going to have a good on-base percentage. Well, it will be good. It just won't be that much higher than his average. He's not going to hit like 300 and then have a 390 on-base percentage. And it's not the type of hitter he's going to be. So you'll get more experience and you'll learn these things, and you can just tell the type of hitters that players are. But that is about all I have to say. You reference the pictures for your walk percentage, strikeout percentage, ISO. Use it to judge your prospects. Don't forget about the contact thing. That's really important and not many people know about it. Also, let's see, the 250 plate appearance rule. Don't rush them. Rushing them is usually bad and can be detrimental for you. And make sure they get time at every level, really. I mean, I guess the worst thing I'd say is just don't rush them. Rushing them is one of the worst things you can do, and you can get away with it sometimes, sure. But it's not going to be a very efficient percentage of times that you'll get away with it as opposed to times that it'll come back and bite you, and then you now have a dead prospect. Another thing is morale. Morale factors into it. So if you were to look at the popularity and morale, let me get rid of this picture for you. Okay, boom. So here we go. Roland team's angry. I guess he expects to be in the majors, so he's not happy with being on the minor leagues. Let's see. Team record obviously is good. Now, things like this will depend on his personality. So, like, if he wants to play for a winner, it's desire for wins low. So, the team record, he's very happy. I don't know what the team record is. Let me look at the team record here. Ah, well, there you go. He's happy with that because they're in first place. So, let's see. Where is he at? I don't even know where he was at. Let me go back here. Look at the players. There we go. Okay, so yeah, I mean, morale is not I wouldn't say it's a huge factor, but it is definitely a factor. And at this point, I'm just dragging on. So I'm going to end it here. If you have any questions, please say something in the comments. I will likely do another video on a prospect that was rushed, and then you can really see the detrimental effects, though I think everybody's had their fair share of prospects that we've killed. I know I definitely have. So that's all. Let me know if there's any questions, and thanks for watching.